Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week, we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree, Beynon, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Hello, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, board-certified music therapist and certified neurologic music therapist here locally in South Florida with the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. The last few weeks, we have been on a series talking about wellness, talking about self-care, meditation. I hope that you were able to join us for that. If not, you can find all of our recorded shows at pbmti.com under the banner of Connections. And if you were able to join for that, particularly 2 weeks ago when we were talking about self-care, we do want to know what commitments you've made to yourself as far as self-care goes. It can be something little, it can be something grand. So as always, please do reach out to us on social media, on Facebook as Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute or Twitter at PBMTI. Again, the more that you share about self-care and what you're doing and what things that are helping you, the more it's going to help others, which is what we hope this show can be all about. So again, thank you so much for joining us for those shows. Today we're going to take a little bit of a different turn and focus on this time of year of new beginnings, of graduations. A lot of colleges are having their graduations this time of year. Even elementary and high schools down here in Florida are starting to wrap up. Up north, they go a little bit longer. And so this is a natural time of year to be thinking forward to the year ahead, especially if you are graduating from college and wondering what's next. What is the next step? We're going to be talking in depth about that today with Sam McDowell, who is our brand new music therapist at PBMTI. Really excited to introduce you to him. He's going to be doing business development down in Broward County, and he is a new MTBC. Congratulations to him. And recently graduated intern from Trustbridge Health. And also his lovely girlfriend, Abby Landau, who is just about to finish up her internship here locally as well. She's going to tell you all about that experience, what that's been like the last year, transitioning from school to internship, and what the next step is. Thankfully, we know what Sam's next step was. But talking about what are those kind of feelings that go into that? How do you prepare for that? What do you take into consideration? There's a lot to consider. As they know, as I fondly remember back 8 years ago when I went through the process, and as many of you may be going through right now. So I just wanted to share, obviously the three of us here are talking about our experience in internship being specifically in music therapy, but we are certainly not the only career profession that requires an internship or a residency or practicum, or student teaching is another example of that. So several different professions require this step after the classroom phase of education before the real world, and it's extremely important. In fact, I often think that a bulk of my education came from that experience of being in the moment and having to rely on the skills that you've learned in the classroom that maybe you didn't always realize how they would fit into the real world. Well, once you're in that situation, you really do have to figure it out for yourself in the moment. It's kind of the true test of everything you've been preparing for over the past several years. So this was from a research article that I remember reading in my internship, also at Trustbridge, the emotional stages in the music therapy internship. Now, again, we're talking about music therapy, but this should be applicable to pretty much any kind of internship, practicum, or residency. So this is just the abstract from it that I thought was pretty interesting. It says 59 music therapy interns representing all 8 regions of the U.S. participated in the study during the entire 6 months of their internship. And that's a typical length of internship for us, usually between 6 to 9 months. Each intern used a Likert scale to rate their feelings on 20 pairs of words describing describing feeling states at the beginning of the internship and at the end of the 6 months internship. Significant gains were made in personal and professional categories, with the greatest gains in months 5 and 6. So I'm going to talk to Sam and Abby and see if they would agree with that, if they made the biggest personal and professional gains. They're kind of looking at each other right now in months 5 and 6, which you're actively in. And whether interns received their first choice in sites was the only variable to significantly impact both personal and professional ratings, while stipend, that's huge, probably the only reason I'm actually here in South Florida, or major region, marital status and population had some significant bearing on professional ratings. Gender, type of facility, and outside employment during the internship had no significant impact on overall ratings. I thought that was really interesting. We're going to break that down more specifically, especially when we're talking to Abby, as she's in this experience right now of, how do we get to where we're going? How do so many of us end up? South Florida is really a perfect example of it. I hardly ever meet, at least in my experience when I was in my internship or working at the same facility, rarely meet anyone from that area. Most of us have come from 1,000 or more miles away to this site because it's a great internship site. But there's a lot of factors that contribute. Like I mentioned earlier, having a stipend. When you get out of school and you can't work full time because obviously you're doing this full time, what are you going to do? What are the opportunities for you at that point? So there's a lot of things to consider that contribute to this. And again, we're going to be talking to Abby and Sam about it. Abby, who's actively in her internship, Sam, who just finished, and we're very thankful that he has joined our team to help us grow business here down in South Florida, sharing music therapy with different healthcare, educational, and community-based settings. And Abby, yes, she's getting round in the corner, and we're just fresh in that knowledge of what have I learned about myself in this experience that I want to apply. What worked about this? What maybe it isn't working? What do I need to improve? It's no time like this present time, as we're about to go into the real world, to really start to look at all those things. And it fits right in with our theme with wellness and with self-care. I think that this is the time also, as we're learning so much, we're absorbing as much as possible. We're getting the best on-the-job training you can possibly get, to also be looking at ourselves, looking inwardly and looking at our own self-care techniques. Because if we can establish those habits, just like we're establishing all of our other professional habits now, will just be that much easier to carry into our profession wherever we go. So a lot of us are working in situations where self-care is so important, as we're in a helper profession. So we are surrounded by individuals, and no matter what your profession is, if you're in a helper profession, you're working in healthcare or education or special needs education, you're giving a lot of yourself, because you've gotten into this field because you like to give. You like to give to others. You like to see that you're making an impact. You're helping others. And it's very easy to do that until we face some compassion fatigue, which is a huge thing in our field to be aware of. So if we can, the earlier we can establish those self-care habits, we're talking about fun things to do after work, after internship, getting together with friends, going to trivia, going to happy hour, whatever it is, going to the beach, whatever it is, establishing those now after school, before we get into the real world, it's just going to make it that much easier to keep those and just preserve yourself in the long run in your profession. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are going to be talking about graduation. Now you've graduated, you've finished the classroom portion. What's next? What does the next year of your life look like? If this applies to you or someone you know, call them up. Tell them to tune in, join the conversation. You can always give us a call if you are someone who is actively looking for an internship or in this experience now, have some advice you'd like to share with others. The number is 888-565-1470. Or as always, interact with us on social media, Twitter, PBMTI, or Facebook, the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Stick around. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break. We come back. I'm going to introduce you to Abby and Sam. Thanks so much.
call was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, and I'm so excited to introduce to you Abby Landau and Sam McDowell. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, Abby, I want to start with you. So, just a reminder, if you didn't catch the first part of the show, we are talking about we're celebrating graduates. It's this time of year, whether it's high school and looking into your next step of where you're going to go to college, or you've graduated college and now you're in the real world. And what do we do next? So in music therapy, when you finish the classroom portion of your education, we move on to completing our accredited music therapy internship, 6 to 9 months. So that's what Abby is in the midst of right now. So before we get into that, just give me a little idea of your background and what got you interested in going to school for music therapy.
So, as a kid, I moved around a lot. So when we were in high school, trying to decide what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives, we had to take the aptitude test. And magically, this occupation came up as number one on my test. That was music therapy. At the time, 11th grade Abby is like, I have no idea what this is. So after doing some really extensive research, I found that it was exactly what I wanted to do, because I was debating going to like the psychology route, because I really do enjoy, helping people, and the brain is my jam. Like it's so interesting. But I also knew that I wouldn't be happy unless I was doing something with music. So it was a pretty perfect combination. And interesting enough, there are only 2 schools in Canada presently that have the accredited music therapy degree. So being a United States citizen, my mom was like, hey, maybe you should look in the States. And after the biggest leap of faith of my life, I blindly accepted to go to Western Illinois University, which is both of our alumni. And it was the greatest leap of faith that I've ever made. So,
is your family still in Canada?
No, actually, my parents right now live in Nashville, Tennessee, but they're getting ready to move back to Illinois in June. Yeah.
So even vacations to go home, you're like, oh, new city.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to be.
So I'm sure that helped with your history of moving all around, because that's a huge leap. I mean, not only did you leave home, you left the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it definitely helped. Moving around made it easier for me to explore options of where I wanted to go to school and eventually where I wanted to do my internship.
And then making the leap to South Florida.
Yes.
How did that happen?
So, Western Illinois University is in a very small town. There's only about 20,000 people. And the closest large town that most people would recognize would be Chicago, which is 4 hours away. At the time, Sam and I had decided that we wanted to do our internship in the same location, if at all possible. So our professor advised that we start looking at really large metropolitan areas. And South Florida had a plethora of internships available, not to mention that there were quite a few that had stipends. It worked out for us because we weren't competing for internships. Sam was going hospice route. I was going anything that wasn't hospice.
Okay.
So
There you go. That works out.
yeah, it worked out really well. And I actually accepted my internship before Sam did. So it is another leap of faith that, everything happens for a reason. Everything was going to work out, and it did.
Amazing. And here you are.
Yes.
So
here we are.
you decided before him, and he's done it in the world, and yeah. Oh.
Yes.
You're not far behind.
No.
No, you're getting a month. You're
I have
less than
5 weeks.
5 weeks left.
5 weeks left.
Been doing the countdown for a while.
Yes. Yes.
5 weeks left. Very excited. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So, what advice would you have for someone who's maybe listening and maybe is in that that junior year or about to be a senior? This process is starting. What are things? I mean, we covered some of it already, but what would you really recommend to someone? Things to consider when looking at the internships.
Well, definitely you need to figure out where your priorities are for your internship. If you are a type of person who is very set in your mind that you want to work with a specific population, then your choices for where you're going to be able to apply and where you can eventually find an internship are going to be much lower than if you have a broader choice for where you want to work. The other thing people really have to consider is moving is expensive. And, we moved, what was it, 1,200 miles? It's expensive. And it's a very different pace than, where we are, which is fantastic for us. But, some people may not be as excited for an opportunity like that. So definitely you have to figure out what population you want to work for, if you have any limitations for populations at all, and how far you are willing to go. Because if you're doing your internship by yourself, you have to build a whole new support system where you are, because more than likely your family, if you decide to move, you're either moving closer to family or further away from family. And if you're moving further away from family, then that support system is gone. And if you're moving closer to family, then all of the friends that you made in college are no longer going to be, at your fingertips. So that's a big.
Having that self-awareness, it sounds like that's the big thing. Knowing what you're going to be comfortable with. Sometimes I always thought this was kind of the joke anyways when we were at Trustbridge, is that sometimes people would come to the interviews and they say, why do you want to be here? Why apply here? And like, the beach. Like, okay. Uh-oh. Because it's heavy work. And if you have not come to this specific site because your heart is in hospice care and you want to help people through that part of your life, that's a red flag, for the site and should be for the applicant as well, because you're just not going to be happy where you are. So knowing that about yourself, not to just accept a site because of stipend, which can be very alluring, obviously, or because of location. We're in a very desired location for sure. But I think there's so much truth to what you're saying. Picking a site where your heart is going to be in it, because this is where this sets you up. It's really the springboard for wherever you go next. And so great points. I think that we're lucky too, Sam, in that we just had so many music therapists to learn from while we were in that situation. I mean, I don't know how many are there now, but I believe there were 10 board certified music therapists, and I had a co-intern for about 3 months of my internship. There's a lot of different perspectives to learn from. I don't know the situation that you're in, but I'm thinking it's a little different than that.
It's very different. I am the only intern, and there is one music therapist. Okay. So she has really taught me so many things about, the way that I work, in addition to, some of her perspectives. She's worked in my current site, I think she's going on 8 years. Okay, so she's been with the company for a really long time. And getting that expertise one-on-one constantly was extremely helpful. However, there is definitely a plus side with having a co-intern. There's someone who's experiencing all of, the adjustments and the hardships that come with, being a full-time intern, and someone who really does understand where you're coming from in certain situations. So I definitely think that there's, plus and negative sides to either situation, but that's another thing to consider when you're going in for your internship. If you're someone who really likes the camaraderie of, having a fellow classmate, then definitely finding an internship where you can be a co-intern or you study under a senior intern for a couple of months is a very wise decision. Definitely.
Yeah, and these are great things to consider that I don't think I ever even thought about when I was starting this process. I don't even know if I knew that was an option. Tell us a little bit about where you are and what population you work with.
So I am currently the intern at the Ann Stork Center in Fort Lauderdale. It is a facility for individuals with primarily developmental disabilities. I work with little kiddos as old as 3 months old, and I work with adults as old as 75. So we have quite a large range. The Ann Stork Center actually has a full working preschool that is integrative to both children with special needs and typical developing children. They have an adult training program, which is where I see the majority of my clients, where people can bring in adults who are outside of the transition from high school, so 22 and over, to the center, and that's where they work. That's how they spend their work day. In addition, they have residential homes and intermittent care facilities, so individuals who are not able to be cared for at home can be cared for at the Ann Stork Center. They have these specific homes have 24-hour nurses on staff, and they can experience as much freedom as their disability can allow.
I had no idea all the services they offer. That's
Yes.
incredible. And so are your responsibilities as an intern, are you doing both groups and individual sessions?
Correct. I'm doing preschool sessions, which are group sessions. And then I see adults on individuals generally, and then I also see 2 preschoolers individually. And then I also do groups in the residential facilities. So I do a residential home 2 times a week.
Keeps you busy.
Yes, very busy.
And that's a good a variety too, which I think
Yes.
is going to be super helpful, going into this next phase as well. So we've talked about what advice you would give someone who's starting this process, things to look at, great tips there. How about once you're in it? And you talked about there's a lot of, we referenced the different emotional states that can change from month to month. It's a lot, and especially if you don't have a co-intern or a big support system around you moving to a new area. How do you get through that? How do you cope with that?
There is a lot of self-assurance that you have to do. So in the first couple months, you spend a lot of time observing, and you spend a lot of time building your repertoire and only doing, a couple interventions or a couple activities here and there, and knowing that, I've only been an intern for 4 weeks. My time will come. I need to be patient. So there's definitely a high want to get in there and do things and being gung-ho about it, and just really recognizing just, I need to observe. I need to, get in line, work ahead, definitely in the beginning stages of internship. Because, once you get halfway through, it's full throttle. And during those first months, you have to figure out, where you can get your support system, where you can find your self-care methods, where you can find your me time, You build your schedule. So, for example, I have 2 girlfriends from college, and we have phone calls on Monday nights. And we developed that schedule within my first bit of internship. And one of the girls is also a music therapist. And we talk every week about what's going on in our lives, and we can share experiences because she's working with the same population that I am currently.
Right.
So even if your support system isn't direct in like a direct vicinity, just having that weekly phone call is sometimes enough to be able to unload some of the things that pile up on your chest.
And I imagine it's validating too, especially in a situation where you may not have someone. Well, obviously you had someone you lived with that was going through the same experience, but not everybody has that situation. So to get that validation from outside, is there? I know our field has different types of Facebook forums and things like that. Is there an internship forum that people kind of share information? I don't know. I'm just.
Not that we have found.
No, I was curious. I'm sure there should be. If there isn't one, someone should start that. As just a way, whether it's I don't think chat rooms exist anymore, but you know what I mean. Like where gosh, I feel really old right now. Where you can share these experiences. I think there's so much truth there, especially in our field. Maybe, engineers and architects don't feel quite the need to process every emotion that comes along their way. Everybody's different. But in our field, we're a certain personality type, that gets drawn to these helper professions. And it's very helpful to be able to relate to someone, to connect with someone on that level. All right, so now we come to this 5 weeks out point, and what does that look like? How does that look different than the rest of the internship?
Well, the light at the end of the tunnel is very bright. Not that it was really a dark tunnel. I thoroughly loved my internship. But it's a very scary realization of my, however many years we spend in school is done. Because technically when you're an intern, you're still a student. It's done. So this identity that I have built for the past 20 odd years is now finished. And really trying to understand what I want with the rest of, with the beginning of my career, with the beginning of my professional life is quite daunting, but very exhilarating. There's a lot of opportunities everywhere, and then at the same time, it seems like there's very little possibilities everywhere. So it's very unnerving, but very exciting. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm still telling myself every day is you have to apply. You have to try. Nothing is impossible if you try. And unfortunately, I'm sure this is the same with, student teaching and with other practicum sites, but all you see in these job listings is such and such years experience required. Yeah. Well, I don't have years of experience required, but I do have experience in my other practicum sites. I have experience from my internship sites, and realizing that I do have professional experience and not letting certain job descriptions hold me up and get in my way. That was a really big hurdle that I'm still in the process of overcoming.
I want to thank you for being, your answers are so thoughtful. I mean, this conversation, it really, I hope that you, if it's within your self-care, can be a mentor to others going through this process, because I can tell that each step of the way, you really have just treated yourself with grace, but also been honest with yourself about that's going to help you so much in the long run. So anyways, sorry to put you on the spot, but really I do appreciate that, and it's really awesome to see as someone on apparently very far the other end of this, but that's awesome. And so as I feel like I'm learning about you as you're walking through this process, what have you learned about yourself throughout this?
Oh my goodness, what haven't I learned about myself? I've definitely learned, limits. I was the girl in college who was, this paper is going to get done even if I'm up until 3 a.m. I am now the girl that is like 11 o'clock at night, time for bed.
Good.
It's knowing my limits, knowing when to stop, knowing when, I have given enough, and it's time to give something back to myself. It's knowing that the perfectionist in me sometimes needs to take a back seat because I'm only human, and humans make mistakes. Even therapists make mistakes. We're only human. The other thing was learning the importance of, study and strong relationships. My Monday phone calls, sometimes it can be the most stress releasing time of my week. And, being able to come home and talk to someone definitely helps. And having those strong relationships have definitely made me feel more secure in a position that is only 6 months temporary. I've definitely learned that, I am braver and I'm stronger than I thought I was. I moved away from my family. I moved away from my friends, and I'm thriving. And being able to admit to myself, hey, you're doing a good job, is a pretty big step for me. So, I guess one of the biggest things I've learned is how to love myself and how, like you said, how to be gracious with myself, because I wasn't for the longest time. And it was in this internship in the first couple of months where I was like, if I keep doing this, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm going to burn out. Yeah.
You're awesome. What an honor it is to talk to you through this experience. Thank you so much. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Sam on the other end of this. So he's down been through the process. Now, what is next? Stick around.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Goodbye. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We're celebrating all those who are graduating school this week, month. This is the time of year when people are celebrating their successes, moving on to the next chapter of life. If you were lucky enough to be joining us for the first half of our show, we were talking to Abby Landau, who is about to finish up her internship working here locally in South Florida at the Ann Stork Center, in her internship at the Ann Stork Center. And again, I hope you were able to hear, if you are someone going through this process, boy, Abby just laid it out in such a real and wonderful way of, hey, be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself. There's a lot of change associated with this time. A lot of people, no matter if you are going into a training, an internship, a practicum, a residency, a first job, whatever it is, there's so much change involved in that. And it's okay to recognize that. And like Abby said, your identity for 20 years was as a student, and now that's shifting. So take the time to realize what that means and how that impacts you, for sure. So now, post-internship, just like a month out, right? We're going to be talking to Sam. Again, Sam, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here, too, in many ways, because as if you weren't listening in the beginning, Sam is our newest hire at PBMTI. He's going to be doing business development for us down in Broward County. But in the meantime, has been literally jack of all trades. So very, very grateful to you. And Abby's like, yeah, I know. Yep, I live with him. He's been jack of all, you know. I'm sorry, Abby.
It's okay.
But so thankful for both of you. So now what? Now we've kind of stepped through the emotional stages of internship. I'm imagining that journey does not just end, right? When those 6 months are up. What kind is going through your mind when you're at the end?
At the end of internship, the first thing you feel is relief, and it's very similar to the relief you felt at graduation when you walked at college, or if you're going to walk at college. We had the experience of walking before we did our internship. We call it the photo op, and they give you a nice invitation to the Alumni Association, and you go do your internship.
They actually gave us our diploma at ours. Like, we walked with the class. That was the last year they did that, but we were really cool. Yeah.
I had an invitation to the Alumni Association.
Yeah, that's where we at.
They wanted money the day I finished.
Nice.
So, but the first thing is relief, but it's a little less than the photo op that you get at the beginning. But it feels almost like an internship, like Abby was saying. You do so much more work in those 6 months than in those 4 years beforehand. But the relief is the same. There's just fewer people there, and there's a lot fewer camera flashes. But the first thing after relief, it's the, what am I going to do? Now what? Fortunately for me, is you and I had been conversating before my end of my internship, and I had a job lined up right away, which I realize is probably a pretty unique experience for a lot of interns
I
and
like to
recent
scope out
graduated
the
interns.
interns in the area, if you haven't noticed. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. All right, continue.
So my internship is also at Trustbridge, just like yours. Your supervisor still works there.
Yep.
Sherry.
Yep. Shout out to Sherry.
Shout out to Sherry. But so we had a very similar internship experience, and I read the same article that you read and you referenced earlier during my internship as part of it. But that was a unique experience for me, having a job lined up right away. And Abby was talking about stability, and 6 months at a time, school. So you go semester, internship. All of a sudden, life isn't in 6 month blocks anymore. And having that sort of stability right away was very helpful. Though, again, I realize that it's probably very unique for a lot of people finishing their internship or their student teaching or any of those things. Even from a lot of my friends that I graduated with in music degrees or teaching degrees or whatever they did, have this interim period where they're very unsure of what's going to happen. They don't know where they're going to stay. It's hard for them to apply for part-time work in the meantime because they're not able to give definitive times of when they're able to start work and stop work. They don't know what their hours are going to be like long-term, living almost week by week, day by day, looking for that new job. And that can be a very nerve-wracking and very overwhelming experience for a lot of people.
So again, kind of keeping your finger on the pulse of that self-awareness. What is the right setting for me? The situation in private practice, and you and I had talked extensively about this when you're even in your internship, is it's not for everyone. Just like being in one building every day, all day, is not for everyone. So knowing what is going to work for you, I mean, it does vary, like you said, of knowing what your opportunities actually are, and certainly the job market always is fluctuating, is changing. But setting yourself up for success, I think, is so important. So what's we talked about some things you could identify as you're making a selection, but what are some tips that you give for those who are job searching?
One of the best pieces of advice that our professor, Dr. Jones, gave us is there is a job for you, and it's exactly what you want to do, but you might have to move there. So her advice to us was, don't be afraid to go anywhere. She said the right job is there for you. The right people, the right population, everything is there. You just have to find it.
What was the response when your professor said that? Do you think it scared people?
Well, second semester of sophomore year or whenever she
Yeah.
first told us that, it was probably a very scary,
I would
very
imagine.
scary thing. Especially for a lot of people who do want to stay close to their families and stay close to the people they care about and the support system. It is a big step, stepping outside of your comfort circle there and doing something brand new. But I do still believe that the right job for people is there. You do have to be willing to move there.
Yeah.
And so many jobs that we're talking about require experience. They require, NMT training, or for us, music therapists. And all that training is accessible, and it's all things that you can do, but it all takes time. And but there are a lot of entry-level positions around. There are lots of people who are looking for that experience and that fresh knowledge right out of school. And so one thing I keep telling Abby right now, actually, is to just apply for everything, anything and everything. If you think whether you think you have a chance at it or you don't, your future employer might see differently. They might think that you do have a chance at that job. They might think that you are the person they're looking for, but you have to play to win. It's just like the lottery.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's such a personal connection too that, as someone who puts out job postings, you can write all that fancy language, but someone could check off every box, and if it's just not a fit, it's not a fit. But if you meet that right person, they're willing, you can see that in them, they want to work with you. So again, I reinforce, what he's saying. Really, it just, you don't know until you try. And also, just to add to that, as not necessarily being, coming right fresh out of school, but as someone who changed paths very drastically, going from working at a company with over 1,200 employees to being a employee of one, I applied to 1 million jobs, and I was turned down from a lot of jobs too. And I thought, what is this? I don't understand. And it was because that wasn't right, for me. Those were not the directions, and they were outside of music therapy. They were in different fields. I just was trying anything. I was just ready for a change, and so we that patience and that trust in the process is very important. It's easy to say that years afterwards, but in the moment it's tough. Absolutely. So you talk about the support network and how important that is. So how do you still feel the benefits of that, even having made these choices of moving? What is the impact of family, friends? What does that look like?
Family is still very supportive, even from a distance. Like Abby said, we moved 1,400 miles to be here in South Florida from the Midwest originally. But that support system's there. But in the Trust Bridge internship that I did, I had the benefit of having senior interns when I first got there, and they were junior interns after me. So in the course of my 6 months there, I met 5 new music therapy interns who were going through, or were about to go through, or had already gone through exactly what I was feeling at that moment. And so what we were talking about earlier with the intern support network would be a wonderful resource, because I felt the benefits of that, and that was what really helped me. Because if you are sitting there wondering, am I doing this right? Is this a weird feeling? Do other people feel this way? And the answer is probably yes. And as that study actually found, that it was very significant, the amount of interns who felt very similar reactions. But as far as networking, that helped me. But you never know, especially in the music therapy field where there's 6,000 some odd of us nationwide, you never know who you're going to see. It's a very small world. Just this week, I met a former classmate of mine messaged me and said, an intern I interned with is applying for jobs down there. Can you answer some questions about the area, cost of living?
Who is this person applying for jobs, and are they applying to our job? Just a quick aside.
They're they're applying for the Trust Bridge job.
Oh, darn it,
I know.
Trust
I'm
Bridge. All
sorry. And the intern was Jessica Sharp, who we went to school and graduated with.
Okay.
And this person happens to be from New Jersey. Jessica's from Chicago. They met in North Carolina and then got in touch with me in Florida, which is just an example of how small the world really is.
Yeah.
And just about how important it is to keep in touch with those people and remember those people, even if it's just a happy birthday on Facebook, just to keep in contact. It's such a small world, and it's such an important part to be connected with.
Absolutely.
All parts of it.
Absolutely. Hence the name of the show, Connections. We're only as strong as our connections, right? Within our field and outside that network as well. We're going to cut to another quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up with just a quick check-in of things that they wish they knew before they started this process. And then we're going to finish with some music together. You don't want to miss that, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Moms fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer, Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon. If you were able to join us throughout our conversation tonight, we've been talking to Abby and Sam. Abby is just about to finish up her internship, her 6-month music therapy internship, where she is going to be coming out into the real world soon and getting prepared for that, sharing her thoughts on that. And Sam, who's just wrapped up and shared the process of transitioning from school, from the classroom to the internship to real world work and what that looks like. And while these are two examples of the process, and they've had each other for support, which I'm sure was a benefit, as I can only imagine, we certainly understand everybody's process is different. Everybody's experience is different. So having a strong network, a support network, sounds like something that's really important. And that self-awareness of knowing your limitations, knowing your strengths, knowing where you might want to reach out to someone for help, and that's okay, that we don't have to be perfect all the time. As students or as interns or as professionals, we make mistakes and we reach out to each other for support and help, and how important that is. So before we close with music tonight, I just want to do one final check-in of just the number one biggest thing you wish someone had shared with you before you went into your internship. Abby, I'll start with you.
This is something that Dr. Jones, our professor at WIU, did share with us, but not something that I fully understood until going into my internship. Internship, residencies, student teaching, it's a full-time job. And it's more than a full-time job, because not only are you doing the work of a full-time music therapist, full-time doctor, full-time teacher, what have you, you're also doing additional work. So realizing that you are taking on even more than what you did in college, because a lot of people go into internship thinking, oh, this is going to be so much easier. I'll have my 9 to 5 hours and then I'll be done. I won't have to do anything at home. No, you're always preparing, you're always studying, you're always looking for that next advancement in yourself. It's more than a full-time job. And having that knowledge and that ability to mentally prepare yourself and have your supports in place and be aware of your needs for self-care, once you realize how much time everything takes, it's a lot easier to be happy with your life and what you're doing.
Beautiful. Perfect. Sam?
The biggest thing for me was we set goals and objectives in our practice and our interventions all the time. And the biggest thing I learned was that I need to set those for myself as well. They need to be the exact same, specific, measurable, short-term and long-term. One of the worst things and really the most disheartening things is to have unrealistic goals that you won't achieve, or it will be extremely difficult. Finding obviously an example would be finding a 6-figure job for us right out of college.
What are you talking about? That's totally what we're making.
But it's not attainable, not very easily. And we want to And so that's one thing I learned about myself, is that I need to set goals for myself and, my immediate future, my long-term future, small goals that I can accomplish each day, ones for the week, ones for the year. And that is what I found, very helpful. 5-year plans aside, everybody has a 5-year plan and it's always changing. But, even just a daily goal, daily boost is a good.
We show our
strategy.
clients the respect and grace of setting them up for success. Why should we not do that for ourselves? Perfect. I love it. Great advice. We've got a few minutes left. We're going to send everyone out tonight with some music. Guys, what are you going to sing for us?
Drift Away.
Lovely.
Doobie Gray. Are you going to join us, Bree?
Oh, perhaps I could. Thank you for the invitation.
Day after day, I'm more confused. Look for the light in the pouring rain. No, it's a game I hate to lose. Now I'm feeling the strain. Ain't it a shame? Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll. Drift away. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
Let's go straight into it.
Beginning to think I'm wasting time. I don't understand the things I do. So unkind. I'm counting on you to carry me through. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Yeah, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Won't you take me away? And when my mind is free, no melody can move me. Feeling blue, guitars coming through to soothe me. Thanks for the joy that you're giving me. I want you to know I believe in your song. Rhythm and rhyme and harmony. You help me along, making me strong. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
One more time.
Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Just give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
Very nice. Thank you guys so much. Abby and Sam, adorable couple. Wonderful. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, being so honest and thoughtful. I know if anyone's listening going through this process right now, I'm sure it was a comfort to them, and it was just awesome to learn more about both of you in the process. So thank you again for taking the time to come on, sharing that with us today. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week. Take care. to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's B-R-E-E, at pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those